All right, so this one, it's ugly. It definitely is ugly. And a lot of students, yeah, they look at it and say, hey, I quit. We don't want you to quit, okay, because we want you to focus on one part at a time. The first part, of course, that we want you to focus on is, well, having enough space to work. But take your numerator, all right? Take your numerator, separate this. Instead of making it one big fraction, we're going to change it into a division problem, okay? So just like we did on that last one, I got my numerator, and it will then be divided by the denominator. Let's see if I can copy this over here. There we go, boom. All right. Now, before I continue, what I would like to do is I have a trinomial in both the numerator and denominator of the first part of that division, in the dividend right here. I don't want that. I would like that to be factored. But before I even do that, just understand it is coming, but before I do that, I want to change this into multiplication. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to keep that just the way it is for now, and I'm going to change this operation into a multiplication problem. So now the division will become multiplication, but that allows me to flip the second fraction there. So that's now x plus 4 over x minus 2. Okay? So we've come pretty far here. Again, was there any calculating involved here? Not yet. Not yet. There wasn't any factoring. It was just a process to change this from a complex fraction into division, now into multiplication. And again, we want it to be multiplication so that any matching factors in the numerator and denominator can be made into phantom ones. So now this is where I need to come through here, and I'm going to take the numerator and denominator of the first fraction and thank you, factor them. So I'm going to do the work over here, but again, just focus on one part at a time. Don't worry about doing the whole thing, just one part at a time. Split it up into smaller, more manageable parts. So I've got x squared minus x minus 2. Now my coefficient of the x squared there is 1, so I'm expecting this it should factor into two binomials with x's as the first term, right? But again, we got to look at negative 2. Our middle coefficient here is really negative 1. The two factors that add up to negative 1 that are factors of negative 2 would be negative 2 and positive 1. Because if you add these together, you get negative 1, but multiply, they give us the negative 2. So those two factors, since our leading coefficient is 1, become the other terms in these two binomials. It's a positive 1. Okay, so that's my new numerator. So I'm going to write that in. That's an x minus 2, and then times x plus 1. All right, but then we also had that denominator. We have x squared plus 3x minus 4. So again, I see my leading coefficient is 1, so I'm expecting this to factor into two binomials with leading x terms. But I need two factors of negative 4 that add up to negative 3. From what I can tell, that would be 4 and negative 1. Because, again, 4 times negative 1 is negative 4, but 4 plus negative 1 is 3, so that's the middle coefficient. Those are the other two terms in the binomials, positive 4 and negative 1. So let's get that written in there. Got an x plus 4 and then an x minus 1. And then we got the rest of that, right? So that's multiplied by that. I'm going to put it in parentheses just so it kind of matches. And that's over the x minus 2. Now that we have this, we're looking for any matches in the numerator and denominator. And so I see this x minus 2 in purple matches the x minus 2 in red, not color-wise, but value-wise. And then we also have in the numerator an x plus 4, put 2 marks through that, in red there. And then in the denominator, we have an x plus 4 in green. Now be careful, because some students like x plus 1, x minus 1, they match. It's close. It's just they're not exactly the same. They need to be exactly the same. So this one is going to end up being simplified as x plus 1, try to keep the colors the same, over x minus 1. Now you can put parentheses around those if you'd like, but I think it's pretty the way it is, so I'm going to keep it that way. Now hopefully you guys can see, just the last note on this problem here is like if this was an x minus 4, x squared minus 4, you know, you'd have to split that up into an x minus 2, x plus 2 kind of situation. What I'm saying there is that you've got to look for all the situations that we've seen, especially the shortcuts. We don't want you to be factoring by grouping on most of these, right? Like, could I factor this by grouping? I could have, but again, it ends up with the same binomial. And so I am kind of taking a shortcut on these, not, well, I am a jerk, but not because I'm a jerk, but because it saves us a little bit of time, you know?